So, welcome everyone. I'm Alexander Mihalcea, and today we're joined by Daniel Keller, CEO of Influx Technologies. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, man.
Before we dive in, could you give us a quick overview of what Influx Technologies does?
Absolutely. So Influx technology is built on the Flux blockchain. So Flux is about 8 years old. Influx technology, if you think Bitcoin, you think Lightning Network. Basically, we're building some of the platforms and projects on top of Flux, but anybody can deploy and launch and run their applications, front ends, back ends, game servers, whatever they'd like on Flux. But essentially, what we're doing is to do to compute models what Bitcoin has done to the financial sector, and that is put it back in the hands of the people, allow people to be participatory and DPIN networks across the board. And Flux is kind of like that underlying framework, whether we don't do the bright and sexy stuff, right? So the people that do the NFTs and the meme coins and the whatever it is, they can do that, and we'll give them an infrastructure to run that on. And that's exactly what Flux does. Is it provides services across the board for anyone that's in the standard legacy system, so legacy technology, and then also in Web3 as well.
Okay, that's fascinating. And what inspired you to create Influx Technologies? Was there a specific moment or experience that sparked this journey?
Well, yes, it was. Myself, Tadeusz Comenta, Parker Honeyman, Jeremy Anderson, Volter Silva are all the founders of the project, and we sat down and we really surveyed the scene, and we said something has to give with centralized compute, because as blockchain continues to grow and scale, having your back chain or your back network residing on AWS just isn't the best option. So that's really why we created Flux. We took basically throwaway projects, masternode projects. I don't know if you're familiar with the masternode craze that went on. 10,000% interest and all this other stuff, and then they just go off into the. But the idea of masternodes was actually really a unique one, and we took that and we created our deterministic nodes, which allows people to provide compute resources to the network, and they are then incentivized in Flux. And we're a proof of work project, so Flux is a proof of work. It's actually a fork of Bitcoin, and that allows us to tap into that baser, consensus mechanism, transactional validator, but allows us to build our layer two on top of that as well. That's Flux OS.
And what was your background before starting this venture?
That's a loaded question. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, right? So I was in the technology world for the better part of 25 years, C-suite level. Over healthcare is really kind of where I came from, and Flux actually was initially designed to help the healthcare industries, and then it kind of just morphed itself into really, it doesn't matter what you're running or what you're doing, you can utilize Flux. So um, like I said, 25 plus years in healthcare C-suite. Spent the first part of my career working on centralization. I know it's crazy, right? So the first 25 years was centralization, on-prem, and then of course cloud, right? And then now I'm going to spend the rest of my career ripping it all back apart again and decentralizing it all, because very early adopter to Bitcoin. So I was in it around 2011 ish, end of 2011. So I've been around for a long time. I've owned a mining farm. I've ran rigs myself. I've done everything you can do, and I gave it all up. I gave it all up for Flux because I realized very early on in the project that this was going to change the world, and that's why I just dedicated the rest of my career to that. So this is my legacy project, I guess you could say.
Okay, so let's go back to when you first started. And what major challenges or gaps did you see in the market that made you think this needs to be solved?
Well, we saw a lot of deplatformings. People that don't like your political affiliation, so they just decide that they're going to deplatform your application, or maybe they don't like what you're doing. AWS is notorious for this. Google, Microsoft, they all do the same thing. If you offer a competitor their platform, they don't like that either. So essentially, we've given up. We've spent the better part of 15, 20 years giving all of our information and our data, which, by the way, is the most valuable thing you can have. We've been giving it away for free. So I always say, like, if you look at Google or something like that, and if you don't understand what the product is or what they're selling, you're the product. And that's exactly what they've done. That's how they've grown. So our goal was to allow people to, we wouldn't accept this in pretty much anything else. And the paradigm's quickly shifting on the financial sector. The financial sector is weird because it was a problem that wasn't looking for a solution. So it's been an uphill battle the entire way. With the rest of the tech sectors, it's exactly opposite. They are desperately needing solutions, and we've been very successful by reaching out to healthcare, supply chain management, RWAs, whatever it is, and that's really where Flux shines. Is it allows you to facilitate all of those things.
And for example, what are the biggest challenges traditional financial institutions face in adapting to decentralized systems?
Expand that question just a little bit further. I think it's bigger than financial sectors, right? I think it's across the board. I think it's every sector that you have. They understand there needs to be change. They went bigger, faster, stronger, better, and now decentralized, right? So they understand if I'm paying $150 for an AWS server and I can get it from Flux for $7, well, that's a no-brainer, right? So price is an easy sell. Security and consistency is the challenge. So you need to, Flux's uptime is 99.9999%. We've been up for 8 years, right? Not down. So that's pretty impressive when you think about it. So the infrastructure is already laid. It's having them become comfortable with utilizing the technology. I saw the same transition when we went from on-prem to Web 2. So the on-prem folks were like, wait a minute, where's my servers? I can't control my servers. What's a cloud? Where's the cloud? Where is this thing, right? Well, we know now the cloud is a place. You can touch it. It's real, right? So we were able over 3 or 4 years to get people to start seeing the value add of cloud-based technology, and it's going to be the same challenge with DePIN and with what Flux is doing. It's going to be a challenge, but once people actually see and can utilize their technology and see it that it's proven to work the same way Web 2 does, even better. I think you're going to see a real surge in the market across. And we're not the only DePIN project out there doing this. You have Akash, you have IONET, you have other products that are doing it. Flux isn't and I'm not saying those guys are a flash in the pan, but you can go deploy everything today on Flux. This isn't like a white paper and a dream. We may do this someday. This is reality. We've spent 7 years building this, so. To me, it's just a kind of a natural transition from the old guard to the new guard, and as soon as they start to become comfortable with that, which we're already seeing, by the way, you're definitely going to see an absolute surge in DePIN.
Okay, and how are AI agents specifically changing the way finance works?
I think I expanded out, not necessarily just the financial sector. I think it's every sector. AI agents essentially give you the front-facing, customer-facing platforms to do, regular tasks at expert level. And it's still with AI agents specifically, we're still pretty early to the game. So with Flux AI, what we did is, one of our major products is Flux AI, and why is it major? Well, it competes with the Chat GPTs, the Groks of the world, but we're completely different. We do not collect your data. So we do not harness your data. We do not get your data. It's private. It's decentralized. It runs on Flux. We do not control the input models. We do not control the output models. It has truly been built for security, privacy, scalability, and to be developed on at the business level. Because let's face it, a Fortune 500 company doesn't want to deploy on ChatGPT where they're basically harnessing all their data. We just recently had a company, I think it was in Japan, who had utilized ChatGPT for one of their projects, and it was basically all of their IP that they had uploaded. And once they figured out what they did, bad news, right? Because essentially it collects everything. So if you want, I'll even go as deep as this. If you want your ideas stolen ahead of time, if you want your contracts to be garnered, if they want to look at what your business is doing, your financials, whatever document intelligence they're using and uploading, it's being garnered, it's being utilized. They will extrapolate your data out of it, and it will be used. That's where Flux comes into play. We don't do any of that shit, right? So we are straightforward as it gets. You get a product that is private. It's yours. You're not a member of the Borg unless you choose to be. You can definitely opt into training models. Right now we have DeepSeek and Llama and 5 or 6 training models. Um, and you can participate with those training models if you want, but it's hard to get to the point where you can do that, right? We purposely make it hard. You'd have to know with knowledge that you're doing it, as opposed to now it's just a catch-all, right? They'll grab it, and unless you specifically opt out, and try to opt out of ChatGPT one time and see how far you'll get. Um, it's they want your data. That there's a reason why Microsoft fell over itself to get with ChatGPT. This is the future.
Also, can you elaborate on the symbiotic relationship between Web3 and AI in finance?
So decentralized finance again is going to require a siloed AI product. Doesn't mean siloed in the sense of like the technology itself and the training models you can utilize, but there needs to be a stopgap between what you're inputting into your AI and where it's being utilized on the other side, so front end and back end. Flux AI, with being 100% private, I think we're the yin to the yang for ChatGPT. I don't see it going anywhere. I don't see Grok going anywhere. And as a matter of fact, Grok is really rock solid product. I prefer Grok over pretty much all of them, except for Flux AI, because they're not sucking my data up, right? But you're going to continue to see this two-sector growth pattern of retail and enterprise. And retail is going to rely on the ChatGPTs, the Groks, the seamless integration, API snap-ins, so on and so forth. The enterprise is going to look a little bit different. It's going to require privacy. It's going to require private APIs. It's going to have to meet criteria. So whether it's HIPAA, PHI, patient confidentiality, all that kind of stuff. So this is where Flux sets us apart. Our Flux Med is built on Flux AI. Our Edge is utilizing AI, our Flux AI platform. We've intertwined all the sectors of the project into one, go-to platform for businesses and retail.
Okay, makes sense. And what role does Flux play in this intersection of AI and decentralized finance?
I think we're the anti-hero. So we are the Deadpools of the AI sector. We're a little bit out there in terms of we wear our initiatives on our sleeves. So decentralized, private, scalable. We're very in your face about it. We call out people that are utilizing or taking advantage of other platforms that I've had a direct head to head with Sam over at ChatGPT, because unethically some of the things that they're doing there I don't like, right? So I think we're the anti-hero. You know what I mean? I think we're the ones on the backside of it saying, there is a different way. You don't have to fall into the Borg, right? Don't give up your data. Don't give up your privacy. Don't give up your company's IP. Use something like Flux so that we can basically fill that gap.
Right, because this is very interesting. So, also, could you elaborate on why the existing solutions weren't meeting these needs?
Well, I always tell people that Flux is a tech company that utilizes the blockchain, and not a blockchain that it happens to have a tech company. And anyone that participates in the network would agree to that, because they're all business owners. I mean, to be a decentralized systems administrator, and we've got 13,000 plus of them, you've got to meet criteria. We benchmark every 30 seconds. You have to have 100% uptime. I think we give a little bit of like a 1% window for, if you drop off or power blips. But these folks are making money on it, and it's a business to them. You know what I mean? So that does make us a lot different than everyone else out there, because essentially they're all reactive to situations. They find a technology and they react to that possible technology. So they build on top of what they've already established. We've already done that. So we're proactive. We've built platforms and delivery model frameworks that allows people to do the things that they need to do. So it does look different from like your conventional tech sector. But our biggest challenge is, you say the word crypto and everybody gets like super weirded out. It's becoming less and less the case, although we've done a disservice to ourselves with these meme coin projects. It takes, we have retail fatigue right now because people are tired of buying shit coins. So the real projects that are actually excelling, they need to start getting the attention that they deserve. So, I think there's just a natural burnout in the sector. 99% of crypto projects will fail within the first, 3 years. Matter of fact, I think like 60% of them will fail within year one. And then you get down to meme coins; they all failed the day they launched, right? So anyway, I think we're a little bit different than anyone else in the crypto sector because we're all technologists. So I come from a tech sector. Volter comes from the tech sector. Tadeusz is a particle physicist. We've got the smartest people in the space in one project, all geared toward doing. This is their legacy projects too. They look at it like this will change the world. We'll give something back to our kids instead of taking from them, which we've done. My generation has done a disservice to our children. I mean, we're giving them censorship, we're giving them deplatforming, we're giving them all these things. Flux changes that paradigm. So hopefully, as we continue to keep as we continue to keep growing and scaling across the board, I think that you'll see more people really rush into adoption because they're starting to realize their data is in privacy and they've been played as a fool.
And what was the breaking point that made to decide to tackle this problem?
Yeah, I would say there's a ton of them. For instance, Telestai it's a decentralized social networking platform, and let me think. I think a better one would be to utilize. You could use Telestai. You could use a bunch of the projects that have recently launched on Flux. But I think a bigger one is like a Dish Network scenario. So Dish Network is rolling out their LTE services. So eventually, they'll utilize their satellites more for just TV. And they want to deploy front ends. And front ends, as if you've been in the tech sector long enough to know, if you want to spend a shit ton of money, talk about deploying front ends, right? Because they're expensive. They were able to deploy on Flux, Dockerize their application, deploy it on Flux, and run that head end on any system across the globe. That's a huge success for them, and they're going to continue to keep building on that platform as they grow. How did Dish Network find out about that? Well, one of their employees actually mined Flux, and this is how 1 degree of separation, right? You're constantly in touch with these people. He mined Flux. He reached out to me. The next thing you know, they're deploying on top of Flux. So I think you could see that with any Web3 project is going to benefit in spades, right? Because these projects that are saying they're decentralized and then AWS goes down and they go down, guess what? They're not decentralized, right? They're Web 2.5 at best, right? So yeah, I think that does change like the entire kind of way that people look at the technology sector today, and they're looking for ways to improve that, and we happen to be the one that fits that need.
Right. So walk us through how influence technology that addresses these challenges. What makes your approach unique?
DePIN. It's all about DePIN. I mean, what's the number one question you get in crypto when you talk to somebody? What's it do? Right? DePIN and what Flux is doing is the very first, at least in my opinion, platform that actually utilizes blockchain the way it should have been utilized from the get-go. We're ASIC resistant, so we don't allow ASICs. One of Satoshi Nakamoto's greatest quandaries was, what do I do with all those compute resources, right? So this is going to scale infinitely. And if this is adopted, which clearly it looks like it's heading in that direction, what am I going to do with these compute resources? And that's where Flux came in, is we capitalized on that challenge that Satoshi had, and we deployed something called proof of useful work, which allows you to mine cryptocurrency and participate in the network, but also participate in useful work networks. So Dan needs rendering done, right? A big rendering job. I'm going to need 20 GPUs. With Flux Edge, you go out and you get those 20 GPUs and you bring them over and you utilize your rendering job. So they have left proof of work, they've left mining, and now they're doing rendering. When they're done, they'll go back again. So essentially what it's doing is allow you to mine any mineable cryptocurrency and also participate in the useful work model of it.
And for example, when you talk to potential clients, what's the biggest misconception they typically have about what you do?
I don't think they do. I don't think traditional banks will live past the next 10 years. I really don't. And I think the banking system is going to look way different. I think you're starting to see tokenization of assets with RWAs. You're starting to see Coinbases, Robinhoods become banks themselves, so highly digital, highly integrated. I think your mom and pop banks where you go down the street and it closes at 5, in 10 years, they will not exist. There'll always be like a footprint of them because they are companies. They'll still manage money, so on and so forth. But the way they interact with their customers, it's going to be AI driven. It's going to be DPIN driven. It's going to be, RWAs for stocks, bonds, tokens, whatever it is. And so in 10 years, I don't think the conventional banking system is anything like it is now. I think it looks completely different.
Okay, and how can traditional banks remain relevant in a decentralized future?
Well, I think they need to adopt tech and stop going through their antiquated processes, right? So, and you are starting to see some banks already starting to address that, but most of them, they have no clue. They just pulled off they just pulled the SEC person who was doing the investigations on crypto. They're becoming more lax on how they utilize crypto. Banks need to be able to store it, but also give their customers the ability to store it. So I think you'll see almost like enterprise wallets. I think your stable assets will continue to keep developing. Our banking system sucks. Factually, it does. If you want to send $10,000, good luck. If you need to go up there, you're either going to do a wire transfer, and you're going to sit there. Sometimes they'll do it on the phone. Most of the time, you got to go to the bank. If you want to, make a payment over a certain amount, good luck. If you want to get cash, try going and getting $5,000 cash out of the bank right now. Good luck. So the demands of the consumers are going to force change on these banking systems. And I think what you're going to see is digital banks. I really do. I think they're going to be very small footprint, very high in customer service, almost like VIP level customer service. Full integration with stable assets, full integration with decentralized technology. RWAs will become huge. And so in 10 years, they don't exist either way. I don't see how they fix that. I really don't. They're a dinosaur at best.
Okay, also, what advice would you give to business owners who want to stay ahead with these changes?
Start to make sure that your CEOs and your CTOs understand what emerging technologies are and how to apply them. Speaking as a CIO myself, right? I spent a lot of time concentrating on projects we were currently supporting, but I got kind of different. I started really looking at emerging technologies, and I was one of the very first adopters of cloud-based technology. As a matter of fact, we demoed and built up AWS back in the day. We were one of the first healthcare organizations to tap into them. Why? Because I had enough forward thinking to look 4 years ahead and say cloud is going to eventually replace on-prem, and that's just the way it's going to be. So if you don't have a strategic leader in your organization who sits at the technology side of it, you better get them because it's coming.
Now, as you wrap up, what's next for Influx Technologies? Any exciting developments on the horizon?
Yeah, so we recently released Flux, our alpha for Flux Med. Our Flux AI is in full release candidate now. You can check us out at ai.runonflux.com. It's rock solid application. It doesn't collect your data. I'll go head to head with ChatGPT any day with Flux AI, just as good in my opinion. And I think that what you're going to see is more motion toward onboarding of clients now. Our products have been out of beta mode. They went through alpha, beta, and now they're full release candidates across the board. So I think you're going to see, no pun intended, an influx of larger companies, including gaming companies, that deploy on top of Flux to reduce their overhead, increase their technology footprint, and allow them to be a lot more scalable and nimble than they currently are. So, and we have a managed service program we just dropped, which allows us, if you're not comfortable with it, we'll help you through the process. That actually has been very popular because people want to understand what AI is doing to their business models, and they want to understand it soup to nuts. They want to understand what's the financial gain, what is the security issues, what are they, you know what I mean? So we're finally getting to the point where they're asking the right questions.
And for listeners who want to learn more or potentially work with Influx Technologies, what's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, check us out. We're runonflux.com. You can check out Flux AI at ai.runonflux.com. You can check out our Edge platform as well. That'll go right off that. Follow us on Twitter. We have a very vibrant community. So join our Discord. We have a Telegram, but I always tell everybody that's the Thunderdome. It's just a free for all in there. So good luck with it. Discord is a lot more structured, a lot more friendly. We'll leave it at that. Yeah, but come check us out and reach out to us if you have a company that you know that could benefit from Flux. Hit us up, and we're glad to talk to them.
Okay, thank you for sharing those insights about you, about the company, and about the health story, and thank you for this amazing podcast session.
Awesome, thank you, sir, and I appreciate you having me on. Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah. Have a great day. Yeah, see you in the next episode. Bye.